You're welcome anytime. You want to tell us a story? You want to give us get on after? What was that, John? What was that, John?
No, it wasn't me, but I was respecting the idea of having him back. Absolutely.
What was that, David?
Anytime you want, let me know.
All right,
If you ever go to Ireland, the best tip I ever received, and I would absolutely swear by this, go anywhere but the cities. The cities are fine, but they're the same as anywhere else. But those countrysides, those little towns all along throughout Ireland, they all have 2 churches, 6 pubs, and 4 bridges, and just great people. So,
well, David, I can promise you that if I or myself and the guys John and I go to, because I don't think Chris is going. If we go to Ireland, now that I know someone who knows the surroundings, and I have your number, I promise you, sir, I shall text you first and say, we are headed to Ireland. SOS. Thank you, David.
Well, you guys, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on and giving me the exposure for Davy Strauss.
Absolutely, no problem. Our pleasure. Thank you for the wonderful story, ladies and gentlemen. That's David Dilworth. David, you have yourself a great one. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas, guys.
And a Happy New Year.
You too.
Gentlemen, we continue on. That was fantastic, man. I mean, that was some good stuff. Learned some stuff there. I love the story, John. Imagine that in 2010 when he said that, and I heard him say, is that what they play there? I'm thinking, whoa, didn't he just say that was 5 years ago?
He did. And think about some of the after game get-togethers that take place in some of these pubs in the countryside you're talking about.
Oh, boy. All right, so before we finish the show, we can still talk some baseball, and since Chris is with us and his lungs and his vocal cords have not been exercised that well, here's what I'm going to give you. Chris, 3 things. Break them down. Break them down.
Arizona has signed Zach Greinke.
Who?
The Arizona Diamondbacks have signed Zach Greinke?
Yeah.
Wow.
Was that breaking news?
Yeah, that's breaking news because Johnny Cueto said no to the Diamondbacks, but Zach Greinke said yes. Why would one say yes and the other say no?
Now, with all the talk that we've been having here, Chris, throughout the weeks, we haven't ever brought up Greinke in Arizona. So, Chris, why don't you start with that? Let's start with that. Talk to us about David Price and his new contract. Lackey to the Cubs, and how about we end it together with Barry Bonds and the Miami Marlins? But first, Greinke to what you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, it was Greinke was linked to just the Dodgers and the Giants, but throughout the past hour, Fox Sports Ken Rosenthal said that Arizona was pursuing Greinke, and Arizona tried to get Cueto. They offered Cueto a 6-year, $120 million contract, but Cueto didn't want it. But I don't have the figures for Greinke, but I would assume it's going to be 5 years, 180, because Greinke wanted to surpass the $31 million AAV that Price got from the Red Sox. So I am stunned that Arizona got Greinke, but Arizona needed an ace, and Arizona did unveil their new uniforms for next season. So I'm guessing that I believe Arizona's trying to make a splash with this deal.
John,
and I would say they did.
Yeah, but what? Let me ask you, John. Though, okay, we know about. Here's what I'm curious about, and I'm not going to profess to know everything, guys. You guys can break it down for me better. But okay, we know the name Greinke. Greinke. Where was Greinke going? We talked about where he might land in the different places. Again, we never talked about Arizona, but I obviously I'm missing some stuff. What is it, John? What does it do for Arizona, that pitching staff and the team?
Well, first of all, what it's going to do is put people in the seats at least every 5th day when Zach Greinke's pitching, which I think is something that the Arizona Diamondbacks really do need to do. They need to create a fan base, a season ticket fan base, and Zach Greinke is going to do that for them. And to go along with what Chris said about the new uniforms, you now have a merchandising stream with an ace to go with it that's going to allow them to make back some of this money they're about to spend.
But Chris, what about a dent in the standings? A dent in the stand. I understand, John, about the seats, and yes, Arizona's a place that we've known since the team's been. I mean, hell, it doesn't matter what kind of team you put in the state of Arizona, who's going to the games. But what does it do, Chris, for Arizona's chances of winning a division, of going to the playoffs? Does it take them anywhere, or they still have to add plenty more pieces?
I think Greinke to start. They already had a good offense, so I think Greinke gives them the aid that they're looking for. And I think now they may try to add maybe a second or a third tier starter, possibly Mike Leake. Still, if they still need someone else for the rotation as well. So Greinke is a fantastic start.
Now, we move over to David Price, and I'm gonna play it like this, okay, Chris? I'm on the line with you. You got two calls on the line. Here's the first call. Chris, we would like to offer you a $185 million contract, and you're thinking, wow, man. Let me think about it for a second. Oh, hold on, I got another call. Hey, Chris, what's going on, man? This is the Boston Red Sox. We got $217 million for you. Did you even pick up the other line? Nope, you sure didn't. I watched David Price during his time here in Vanderbilt. Of course, the Vanderbilt ace, a great Vanderbilt pitching staff. This was, of course, before the Vanderbilt Commodores eventually finally won themselves a College World Series. The Vanderbilt baseball team has been one of the best college baseball teams in the past nearly a decade right now. And you watch David Price, one of its aces, during those years, grow up in baseball. And, baseball, especially for pitchers and gigantic hitters, especially for pitchers, let's just talk pitchers. Pitchers are quarterbacks. They're huge contracts. But, here's what kills me about this, Chris. If you sign a guy for 7 years, $217 million at the age of 24, 25, 26, then I'm like, okay, let's see how this plays out. But if these guys keep getting these contracts, man, when they're in 30 plus, he's not really going to live out the life of his contract, at least not production-wise, right?
No, I think you sign the guys, if you sign them to get the production for the first couple of years, and then you know that towards the end of the contract, you're not going to get the same production as in years one through three. But the thing about Price's deal is that after year three, he can opt out.
And
that's right. And the Red Sox, this is where the Red Sox got smart, because as Chris just said, Price can opt out after the third year, which means the Red Sox are really only on the hook for 3 years at $90 million.
All right, but John, with the Red Sox knowing that, obviously they putting the language in the contract, together with the agent, but with the Red Sox knowing that, and it really fell into place with what I was saying, because we know the contract is 7 years. We know in this case that the years of production from David Price are probably between 3 and 4 years. Maybe if for some reason, he finds some more, I usually say learn the game even better and get better. You see how certain pitchers are able, as they mature and get older, they can get better as they learn the game. But you're looking at, let's say, those 3 years from the Red Sox. So I ask you right there in Red Sox country. So now, the same thing now, when we talk about Greinke in Arizona, what does the addition of Price do to that pitching staff? And on top of that, how it affects now the moves that Boston makes? Because you're talking about an ace, talking about having a pitcher, a number one. Now what for Boston?
Well, like you said, it provides the Red Sox with something they did not have at any point last year, which was an ace, a bona fide guy that can go out there every fifth day and say stop a losing streak, start a winning streak, either way you want to put it, which, as I said, is something they did not have at all last year. It certainly does put the Red Sox back in the mix when you start talking about the division. I mean, this is a team that unfortunately has been in last place 3 out of the last 4 years, and it really is something that ownership wanted to stop, and so they decided to potentially overpay for David Price, and I think that can easily be suggested that maybe they did. I think the Red Sox are really looking at this as a short-term situation. I don't think that they really believe that Price is going to be here for 7 years to collect the $217 million. But I do think they expect him to be here at least for the 3 years at 90. And if that's the case, I think the Red Sox would be more than happy with that, especially if in those 3 years they contend for another World Championship.
Hey, I want to tell you guys, hey, this Big Papi here. Hey, no worry, man. Me and David, we good buddies, man. We good buddies. Everything's okay. So,
well, I'm not sure they're great buddies, but they'll get along for at least one more year.
John, let me tell you something. If David Price, Chris, you tell John, if David Price pitches the way he is expected, as a matter of fact, let me rephrase that. If David Price pitches like his ass better pitch for this kind of contract, Chris, I think Big Papi will get along with him just fine because that's going to do a whole lot for the Red Sox. Your thought, Chris, on the David Price signing, and let's not talk money because 217, we ain't got to say nothing else.
Yeah, I was actually surprised he signed with the Red Sox because the Cardinals made him a good offer, but the Red Sox offered him at least $30 million more than what the Cardinals offered him. So I think Price is just trying to get the money, but also with the Price deal, it also opens the possibility at the Red Sox to actually trade one of their surplus of outfielders to get a starting pitcher because they already sent Chris Young to a 2-year deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if Price is just only the first move that Dombrowski makes during the winter meetings.
And I just want to take a quick station break here, folks. Of course, you are listening to In the Batter's Box, the NGSC Sports Baseball Weekly show every Friday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. This is a broken down two-part edition that's going to probably add up to a whole lot more than an hour. Is the first half hour, 40 minutes of the show. Of course, we did open with myself and John and some actual baseball talk, and then we're joined by David Dilworth, Ireland umpire for baseball, and I know I didn't say that right, and he had some great stories to tell. Unfortunately, we had technical difficulties in which we lost everybody but the clown, me, and at that point, if you want to listen to me make a fool of me, for your entertainment purposes, of course, out there, just please listen to part 1 of In the Batter's Box, where I talk Spanish. Sí, hablo español, mi nombre es Rafael, boricua de Puerto Rico, and I talk some French. Je parle français très bien, je parle français dans les copeaux septembre. I do speak English, too. I won't tell you what the other language is. You probably don't want to hear that on the air. But that would be in part 1. Part 2, of course, I've gotten off a little more seriously here. And I close it again by saying, of course, remember the website, ngscsports.com, all your current content, all the shows right now. If you look at the NGSC Spreaker radio player, it'll show you In the Batter's Box. We are live right now on ngscsports.com. Catch all the shows, of course. We have a bunch of shows. As a matter of fact, I haven't done this in a long time, John, and I think that it would be very wise to do this. ngscsports.com. You want to take a listen to some shows? Why don't you check out Big Jim and the Boys as they give you 3 Count Thursday every Thursday night. That's the NGSC Sports Wrestling Show. Remember your boy, the Heartthrob, G. Stelio? That's right. The only show that matters. Latest episode is episode 16. Of course, it don't go without your boy, EJ Christian gives you Earnestly Speaking podcast. This past episode is Who's the Best Bet to Make the Super Bowl? Raider Rome and Josh give you, every Wednesday night, they give you the NGSC West Recess Sports from the left coast. On Wednesday, of course, Draft Central comes along. Josh Zimmer, Montel Hardy, and whoever else they got on Periscope hanging out with them as the boys talk NFL, draft stuff, prospects, NFL draft. They also give you their weekly scouting focuses. I think they have their championship editions, they call it, this week. We also have a high school football show on the network. That's on Tuesday nights. That's the Don James High School Report. Gives you all the top players across the country. We got a little in on the on some players. So one of our guests, of course, has just made the Under Armour's the Under Armour game. Don't ask me his name because I don't have it ready right now. Of course, We also have a New England Patriots show. Don't ask me